was on day one. In case you missed some of the insights and the industry leaders' facts and numbers and everything that was discussed yesterday, we'd like to start with a little bit of a recap from day one. So I'd like to invite an industry, food industry insider, and experienced also in his field. He's had over 18 years of experience in this business. The managing director of Friesland Campania, Middle East and North Africa, Sumit Mathur. Please join us on stage. He will take you for a quick recap of day one before we go on to our keynote speaker of the day.
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you for announcing me as younger than I have. I don't have 18, but 25 years of experience. Good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome once again to our day two of Future Food. As you saw in this video, we had a very intense, very action-packed day yesterday. We kicked off with an opening address from Her Excellency, Mrs. Miriam Al-Maheri. We followed that up with a day-long of keynotes. We had 3 panel discussions. We had people from the industry speaking, but we also had the whole ecosystem. We had DP World, we had Dubai Industrial City, we had our equipment and technology providers, we had green energy providers speaking. And if you try to tie a thread through the whole of yesterday, it was about sustainability. A lot of the discussion was around sustainability challenges and opportunities. Now today is exciting because today we are talking growth. So the common theme today, I hope you will see in today's presentations and discussions, will be about growth. We have kicking off this morning His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Al-Shamsi, and he's responsible for industry growth within the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. And then the whole day is about consumer trends, it's about innovation, it is about digital disruption, it is about market reboot, and a panel that I'm really looking forward to, which is about women in food. So I hope you will have an equally exciting day today as you had yesterday. And I'd like to hand over now back to Jesse. I hope you have a good learning. Please do interact, please do share. If your questions are not answered, please pass them to us just as a note, and we'll try to come back to you later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. Sumit's also a great savior. He's the conference chair as well. Our keynote speaker for day two is an accomplished leader with numerous professional achievements in this industry, such as establishing Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, the first of its kind in the world, as well as leading negotiations, managing Shell oil, gas, and petrochemical assets in the Middle East. This is just to name a few. Please welcome for the keynote address of this morning, His Excellency Abdullah Al-Shamsi, Assistant Undersecretary, Industry Growth Sector, Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, United Arab Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind introduction. And it's a real pleasure to be here today. We're very proud of the UAE FMB group for bringing all of us here today. And this is a truly leading FMB event. The theme of this event is timely, and as the chair of the conference said, I'm responsible for industry growth, which makes our keynote here very timely. I think it's time, as we said at the CEO panel, to talk about growth. The experience, the pandemic experience, showed us not only challenges, but many opportunities that are there for us to capture and unlock locally, regionally, and globally. And I'm going to talk about 3 themes for growth. The first one is the opportunities from the pandemic experience, the value chain gaps that we saw in the UAE have become opportunities. And growing the F&B sector in these opportunities is no more a luxury, but a necessity for the UAE. And this is where the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technologies Operation 300 billion comes in. Sustainability, number two, the second theme is sustainability. As the global population exceeds 10 billion people by mid-century, there's an urgent need to find more efficient and sustainable ways of feeding our people. And the UAE net zero target by 2050 also comes in at the right time. Number three is changing consumer preferences. We also touched on this in the morning. We think that these changing consumer preferences are also an opportunity for growth. Now, the establishment of the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology comes in to support these growth themes. The ministry operates through three pillars: industry, advanced technology, and standards and conformity. And our goals are simple when it comes to the F&B sector. We want to more than double the UAE F&B sector's contribution to GDP. We want to improve the industrial and technology ecosystem in the UAE to make it more attractive for people to do business in the UAE and in the UAE industry. We want to ease market access in the UAE and abroad. And we want to incentivize the adoption of advanced technology, especially in F&B, so we can grow and manufacture new types of food that we didn't manufacture here before. The only way for us to succeed is to work hand in hand with you and through you, and building on your knowledge and your capabilities. A key enabler to achieving our shared goals is the proactive engagement between the public and private sector. This level of engagement can ensure that the UAE's regulatory and legislative frameworks are optimal, relevant, and flexible enough to create the right environment for progress. We know that you're facing challenges, and we talked about them, about some of them in the morning. To name a few, better market access in the UAE, in the region, and in the world, rising supply chain costs globally, availability of financing, especially working capital financing, are only some of these challenges. But what I can say here today is that we are working on them, and with you and through you, we'll be able to resolve these challenges. As we look into the future, and as we enter the next 50 years of our beloved nation, we need to capitalize on our competitive advantages. The UAE's annual food trade exceeds 100 billion dirhams. We're already a global food logistics hub, meaning that for F&B manufacturers in the UAE, they're in a unique platform that gives them access to established trade channels. And these trade channels and this access will only grow to new markets. And this is what we're working on. In the UAE, we also have one of the most diverse and multicultural populations demanding all kinds of F&B products. We also need to build on recent success stories that also give us opportunities to grow, such as the Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate, which spurs investment in climate-smart agricultural R&D, This initiative is set to launch at COP26 this November, and the initiative has already garnered support from 30 countries and partners such as the FAO and Gates Foundation. Another key initiative is the Food Tech Valley in Dubai, a partnership between the government and Wasl Properties. It's also set to become a regional hub for future clean tech-based food and agricultural products. It will be home to 4 main clusters: agricultural technology, engineering, a food innovation center, R&D facilities, and an advanced smart food logistics hub. Ladies and gentlemen, they say that you are what you eat. And in the UAE, we're aiming to be the most forward-looking, the leanest, most diverse, and most sustainable people in the world. And it is through our F&B sector that we will show this to the world. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to engaging with you all throughout the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Our next speaker probably needs no introduction. You all know him from various achievements, various positions and titles, and he also holds quite an impressive archive of Dubai's journey all the way to it becoming the hub it is today in this sector. He's basically a leading business entrepreneur in this region as well, with an extensive experience in industrial manufacturing and commodities trading in international market. Please welcome His Excellency Isa Al Ghurair, Chairman of Al Ghurair Investments, for our fireside chat, where we will be going through a list of challenges, opportunities, and hopefully additional insights from Your Excellency. Welcome. How are you? Hala bik. Sabah al-khair. It's okay. This is the new technology of today. The microphone is in your face all the time. I'm going to make that more comfortable a little bit. Have you had your coffee yet?
Yes, I had my shot of coffee, but it is unfortunately, it's not maybe our factory, Karam Coffee. I'm not advertising for my factory.
I can't stop you there. The stage is yours. You can do all the advertising you like. I'd like to start with you because of this big red timer we have here, to give us your insight of Dubai's journey all the way to the hub it is today, specifically the turning points that you think made a big difference.
The turning points, first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The journey of the UAE and the region here, I remember my father, when the family was in the pearling business, first of all. And then after the World War II, there was a depression. And the pearl went from 100 to 10. So the grandfather went into the business of trading, from here to sell, from here to India for trading. In the late 60s, the two industries we established as a family. One is bringing in new ideas of aluminium into the market with aluminium frames versus wooden frames. And the other one was a banking, which was called Bank of Oman. The actual turning point is when the UAE was established. In the food industry, we have my grandfather with my fathers, as well as my two uncles, established the flour mill. It is started in 1976, but before that it took about 3 years, because it is not known for us, this industry, so we have to start from scratch. Starting, the the flour mill in 1976, where we changed some of the things, like for instance, the flour used to come from Australia in a jute bags. We started packing it in a cotton bag. People were not used to these things, these changes. So we had to, disruption in the supply chain was there. And it took us 6 months to convert people to buy fresh flour versus imported. But from there was the trajectory was different. And then we had to go to, it used to be only 100 tons, and we had to expand it to 300 tons per day. And that was the journey of, it was a basic industry, which is flour, but based on the flour, like you see now, Brother Ahmed, is the pasta industry, bakery industry had flourished because now a basic industry was established.
You said a key word right now. The key word you mentioned is disruption. Now the industry went through a lot of challenges, and there are concerns of disruptions, concerns of food security, although the industry has stepped and found a way to be where it is today. My question brings us to the top challenges facing the food sector right now. What would you say are the top three?
You see, it is, first of all, I think we have to innovate, to be creative, to be ahead of the curve rather than behind the curve. When I said, we were the first people to put it in a cotton bag versus jute bag, that was a disruption in the method of these things. We have to be always, we are blessed here with the Gulf food. Gulf food is really a nice platform where we can see the world coming here. From there we can learn. I also, you see, since the people from the ministry is here, Shams is here, my request is to have to, the government should be an enabler to the industry rather than, creating obstacles. We face sometimes, I discuss it sometimes with the DEWA chairman, is that when we have increased the prices of electricity to 45, there was 7 fills was based because of the fuel surcharge. The prices has come down, but they have not brought down the prices of electricity. So here I'm asking, the regulatory also has to help the industry. And they see now this industry, the food industry, food and beverage, is a very important in the security of the country. So we have to work together hand in hand.
Yeah, I hear you resonating some of the requests we've been, or some of the insights that we heard from industry insiders as well. Would you say you are concerned today about possible disruption in the food supply chain in the foreseeable future? There are some numbers globally, for example, that say that estimates say that the demand for water globally will surpass water supplies by 40% in 2050. Do you have concerns in the foreseeable future?
One of my concerns is climate change. And we have to adapt to the climate change. And water is one of the scarcity raw materials is available. How we can utilize and not waste. A few days ago we were trying to make a wudu and there was not water, and there was a bottle of water, we had to share it with 2 persons. I was thinking, okay, we are 1.5 liter is enough for 2 people. While if we open the faucet and the water runs, maybe we'll have 1 gallon or 2 gallons of water goes into the drain. So how to save? This is what is always in my starts
From home. You always say that starts from home.
It starts from home. And also food security. I told Her Excellency, the Minister, Mariam, that food security also starts from home. I would like to see in the future that we could make what is called in Arabic, muna. Muna means it is a 1 month or 15 days of stock in the house. It's like what we have at this moment on the top of our houses is the water storage. I say there is a water storage, there should be a food storage. So this one will, you saw in UK how the people queue on the petrol station because they are, half tank is full, but they're afraid they will run out. Imagine you take this first shock is by having some stock at home, you will not have this shock. So water scarcity, I believe in it, and one of my worries is in the future is climate change and how we should adopt to embrace this climate change and what should we do to reduce water usage and harness what is being given to us now is the solar. I'm constantly working on how to convert solar into energy and to water. You know, yesterday I met ambassador from Holland, and you know the Dutch pavilion here, they're producing 1,200 liters of water just from the air. With the simple technology is there. So maybe this is to be improved for the future, that we can harness even water from the Dubai weather, the humidity.
Yes, the Netherlands has had a lot of advanced solutions to scarcity or resources scarcity. You've mentioned, Your Excellency, your insight on the need for support, more support on the regulatory side. I'd love to hear from you, where should the industry leaders look for solutions right now? Are they looking in the right places?
You see, the Expo here, 192 countries are there. If we look around, there will be something that could be from all other parts of the world that could be utilized in this part of the world. So we have to go, and the things will not come to you. You have to see, like we say, this Kandura will not be, nobody can make it except the tailor for my size and other things. So we have to tailor-made our requirement is by ourselves. But by going around, I remember Sheikh Mohammed going to Malaysia, to Singapore, to see what is there as something we should learn. There is no harm in learning. We have to learn from others and adapt it to our climate, our situation here, to be able to benefit from it. Otherwise, like I was talking to a gentleman, he's converting his school, the air conditioning is with a solar air conditioning. That means that he produced the air power and then use it for the air conditioning, where is reducing the consumption of the power generated by the government. So this is, it helps, you know, a small initiative like this can make a big impact. We have a saying in Arabic, from drops, lakes could be formed.
And you always mention this, you always mention innovation, you always mention collaboration and looking outside of the box for new solutions. You mentioned in the beginning that there should be more smart solutions, more innovation. I'd like to get your insight on technology. What do you think are the top technologies that the industries, the food industry right now, should be making more use of? I know we mentioned a little bit the use of energy in smarter ways. What are technologies that are on your mind?
One of the things that we started a long time ago is, to work on it is, for instance, vertical farming.
Yes.
It's one of the areas that, it is now, it is in 9 floors in the same space. I'm going to produce the product that I need, and round the year. So these are the technology that it is there available, how to utilize that technology to our benefit. Because here we have harsh environment in the summer, for instance. Winter, maybe, yes, I can grow it outside, but how about summer? This is food security and also carbon print reduction. Imagine this is coming from far away from other countries to this part of the world. How much fuel is being burned to bring it here? By doing these solutions, we are able to produce it here locally and reducing also waste. Mm-hmm. Imagine with 24 hours, I get a call from the supermarket, I need this lettuce. It is grown because I know their demand is there. So it is coming also fresh, as well as the supermarket does not have to waste so much of material because it has spent 1 week or 10 days on the supply chain. So I reduce the supply chain by 24 hours, producing it in 24 hours, delivering it in 24 hours. So these are a sample of technology that we could utilize. I was speaking yesterday to a friend of mine. He's in Canada. He is in the pulses industry. Now the buzzword is the meat-less protein, vegetable-based protein, where a lot of people, trying to come out from the meat to plant-based. And I was telling him, Canada is very big in pulses, okay? Please, you produced the material there, half a processed, and then we process the furthers here. These are the things that what we call collaboration. What you have, what I have, how to put together to become a better for the future.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to, Your Excellency, ask you to, if I were to ask you to give maybe one takeaway advice, if you can. You have regulators, you have the public sector, you have food industry insiders here, you have farmers, you have students and new talents, local talents. They all look up to you. What would you like the main advice to be taken away from this today?
Don't be afraid of failure. Be innovative, be creative. And for the regulatory, make yourself enablers to the industry. So, because they're taking a lot of risk is there, give them that comfort of how to. So never, my opinion is that failure is a success for the future. Look at Apple, what happened? Nokia never thought that Apple, he's a computer man. How he come into the industry of the telephone? But it was a failure, not a failure product, but it's a challenging that, Apple was able to innovate and create a telephone that could bring an industry leader to their needs. So failure is recipe of success.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. Talking to you is, I could sit here for quite a longer time, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Your Excellency, Isa Al-Ghurer, thank you so much for your insights. We're going to see you in a little bit later. Thank you so much. I'm going to take over some of this insights to take you along to one of the highlights of day number 2. The public sector here in the UAE has been quite supportive to the industry. We heard yesterday from industry leaders, from company CEOs, from farmers, how much support they've been receiving from the public sector, and they wanted to take that support and build on it for further collaboration, specifically now that things are opening up a little bit. And yet again, here we are in the first event face-to-face after the pandemic. I'd like to highlight this upcoming event with a signing of an MOU to strengthen this collaboration between the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology and Food and Beverage Manufacturers sector. So the whole point of this MOU is to strengthen and enhance bilateral cooperation between the two parties. It will also increase the food and beverage sector's contribution to the country's GDP from 133 billion dirhams to 300 billion dirhams by 2031. Quite an ambitious accomplishment. This will happen by supporting the growth of national industries and making United Arab Emirates a global center for manufacturing. The MOU will also increase the market share of made in UAE products. You all love that label in the local, and it will target local and export markets. It will also enhance and improve the technology and competitiveness of the food sector, something we've heard and highlighted a lot from speakers yesterday. With that, I would like to invite Her Excellency Farah Ali Al-Zar'ouni, Acting Secretary, Under-Secretary for Standards and Legislation Sector at the Ministry, along with Mr. Saleh Louta, Chairman, Food and Beverage Manufacturers Business Group, onto the stage, if you may, to commemorate this MOU by the signing of these lovely red leather envelopes that I see on the table. Yes, you can clap. It is quite a milestone. It is a step further into collaboration. I will give you a couple of briefs and numbers, additional numbers that will come up in this MOU and give you a further perspective on what this agreement will help both parties. Of course, we're talking about collaboration and cooperation in implementing the Make in Emirates project by increasing the market share of locally manufactured food products, also increasing competitiveness and the possibility of exporting outside of the country. So you see it's a multi-layer task, it's a multi-layer goal MOU. The second area of cooperation will be improving technology. We heard a lot about technology and digital tools and enhancing the competitiveness in the sector. Third, very importantly, investments. Everybody's looking for a way to get more support and way to get more investments. This will help attract investments related to, of course, the food industry for the UAE to attain global leadership in the field. And finally, preparing standards and technical regulation for the food sector to develop quality infrastructure. I'd like to kindly invite for the photo op. Please stay there so you will be joined with His Excellency, again, if you may, Isa Al-Ghurair, as well as His Excellency Abdullah Shamsi, Assistant Under-Secretary, Industry Growth Sector at the Ministry. Please join for the photo opportunity with Ahmed Balyuha, Board Member, Food and Beverage Group. Thank you so much. Can we have, yes, just a couple additional photos, please, on stage. This would be the second MOU this week. Yesterday's MOU was purposely furthering the cooperation or the focus on local talents and local Emiratis and helping support local talents, giving them training, internship, upskilling, and further job opportunities, both in the public and private sector. So this today would be a more industry-focused MOU, helping the industry get additional support in several of these sectors and challenges we have been hearing over yesterday as well as today. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. I will take you, thank you. I'll take you along to our next speaker who has a focus and long years of expertise in a very strategic area, which is market research. You all know how important it is for any new product to achieve proper and detailed market research. Our next speaker has over 15 years of experience in the field, and he leads Nielsen's Arabian Peninsula and Pakistan sub-region, which includes Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, and Pakistan. Please welcome, be patient with me, we spoke about his last name earlier on, Andrei Dvoychenkov, who's the Managing Director, Arabian Peninsula and Pakistan at Nielsen. Are you here, Andre? Yes, he is. You can correct me. He's got a... It wasn't that bad.
You're right. Yes, you're
very
right.
well
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you. First of all, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all during this face-to-face conference and meeting. I think it's something which we miss a lot. Today, I will talk a little bit about the new normal, about the consumers, about the shoppers, and about opportunities, because despite of a lot of the challenges and concerns which we see that our partner experience, still we believe that there are a lot of the things which we can do together and drive the market. I would like to start maybe from this slide, which we used around 20 months ago, where we were in the period of the March, April, during the lockdown phase. And again, this picture was not different in any other countries around the globe. Pandemic actually sparked a lot of the categories, hand sanitizers, home care categories. They grew 300–400% during that time. But at the same time, we see that a lot of the categories, like the beverages or certain of personal care, they show the decline. And again, it was quite obvious that a lot of the restaurants, cafes had been closed. And of course, for the beverages, one of the certain of key channel. And what we see right now in the current days, during the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that there is a recovery. Based on the slide, you see that there is a growth, but we're still not on the level of the 2019. We are somewhere there, and I believe by end of the year, we will reach around 1 to 3% for the FMCG. And I think it's a great job. We all have to be proud of this. And maybe you will ask me, why? Because it's not just double digit, which we always experience here. But I would like all of you remember the first months of the lockdown, of those restrictions around the worldwide, how much it was panic buying, impacting the consumer behavior, shopper routine, and so on. How did it negatively impact the income of some of the consumer groups, which we call here constrained, which possibly experienced some health issues, job loss, and so on. At the same time, we also see another group of the shoppers, which did not have such of the negative impact due to the COVID, but still, they're starting to be much more cautious. Based on the numbers, as of today, worldwide, we see that around 63% of the shoppers have been impacted by the different obstacles due to the COVID. The same number, around like 20 or maybe 12 months ago, was like for the insulated shoppers, meaning that the picture completely swapped, we see that more and more and more, unfortunately, the shoppers have been impacted. This, we do believe that this impact right now reached the bottom, and it will come to the recovery mode very soon. In some of the countries, we already see it. But what I would like us to focus more, as always, opportunities. As we all see that the current situation a little bit different, the new normals, a little bit sort of challenging for some manufacturers, for some of the retailers. And let's have a look at what literally consumers will buy or already buying right now. And I would like to start from the very simple paradox. We see that shoppers feel or perceive that the food prices have been increased. Also, they're willing to buy only essentials. And again, it's majority of them. But at the same time, what we see that they still care about the quality of the product. They're still willing to pay more. And I think it's quite interesting paradox. And overall, based on the offtake numbers in UAE as well as in Saudi, we see the growth rates of the super premium and premium segment. It's the products with the price index more than 100 versus the market median. And again, it's not just the trend of the current months, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. This trend continues during the last 8, 9, 10 months. And we see quite positive traction. And let's have a look at why the premium and super premium products growing. What is the important for the customer right now? We see that quality, health, wellness, it's something which is really attract the shopper. During the last 7 days after the pandemic, we see that the shoppers claiming that they bought some products with the health and well-being ingredients, like organic, it can be sugar-free and so on. We also see the reflection on the sales for the plant-based, for example, or for the herbal and infusion tea. Again, it's not just only about the price. It's not just only about savings. For sure, they will reset their basket, but it doesn't mean that they will focus only on the sort of the cheap products. They need product which will answer on their needs, on their demand. And here I would like to bring a couple of the examples from the different countries. Again, it's not just only about the price and premium. It's not about packaging or convenience to consume. It's also about product benefits, functional benefits, ingredients, and so on. On the right side, you see the Nada, which launched the Greek yogurt, which is getting quite good traction in Saudi Arabia, as well as the Halal Top. This is the ice cream, which is coming with the nice offering of product with the high protein, low calories, and even with some of the dairy-free SKUs within the portfolio. Again, all of them premium, but at the same time, it's not just only the price. These products bring in something else. Coming to another interesting question about where purchase and consumption will happen. Certainly, we see, based on the previous year and beginning of this year, that routine of the shopper change, routine of the consumer change. During the pandemic, a lot of time we spent at home, right? And less time at the office, less time in the parks, in retailer, and so on. But as you could see, based on the Google mobility trips data, we're still not on the level of how it used to be during the pre-COVID. And I'm not sure that we will be, in a some of extent. You hear more and more companies extending their work from home policy. Some of the companies coming with the hybrid approach. And it's a new normal. And certainly, we see that it's bringing some disruption for the consumer in the way of where they bought the products in the past and where they buy it now. And here I will come with the first trend about the convenience. We see that this channel, which is mini markets near the home, near the neighborhoods, they get in more and more attraction in our countries, in GCC countries in particular. And we see that for the shopper, right now, one of the most important or key attribute of choosing the store, it's everything I need is available in one shop. And even though I'm ready to pay more, in order to save the time during the shopping. Again, we see those reflections. Just it's not only about premiumization, it's also about geographical proximity. It's easy for me to go out of my house and come to some store which is nearby. We see that shoppers starting to visit more and more those type of the store. Another one, which is I think right now everybody talking about that one, e-commerce. We see that during the pandemic time, e-commerce went up drastically for FMCG industry. It grew double, triple digit for some categories, but still it was on a low base. And even now, we don't have those restrictions anymore. Everybody can go and visit it, any shop around the country. But at the same time, the e-commerce still taking this share, still growing. And I think this trend will continue. On the right side, I put a couple of categories in order for you to see brick and mortar against of the e-commerce for some of them. And you see, the growth rates are phenomenal. Still, there is a low base, but it's growing. E-commerce in our country is around 5 to 6%, depending on the category. But around 2 years ago, it was 1, 2. And again, we see that despite of a lot of the challenges within this channel, we see that the growth of this particular e-commerce will continue in the future. Let's talk a little bit about the examples. Again, brick and mortar trying to accelerate the e-commerce activities, but at the same time, even some of the purely online players, which before never focused on the FMCG, but starting to actively engage with the customers through this type of the categories. Moving further down, why consumers will make the purchase? And I think this is the question which we always ask our customers. And certainly what we see that around the world during the pandemic time in particular, a lot of the shoppers starting to save. They cut on the spends. But what is interesting, again, we have this number around many countries. Investments or let's say spends on food, on certain of FMCG categories increased across many shoppers. That's why certainly we see here some strong opportunity, because maybe there is some group of the shoppers which we called once again constrained, which were highly negatively impacted by the COVID, lost the job or sort of had less purchasing power. They don't have a chance to go to the cinema. They don't have a chance to go to the restaurant, right? But they still want to have this experience. They want to still indulge themselves with the ordering maybe some food online, maybe ordering some popcorn, some crisp from the cinema, and have this experience at home. And we see again this trend continue across many countries. And here I did bring a couple of the examples where we see that highly likely those group of the shoppers, if they are missing this experience or not able to have the dining or going to the theater, to the cinema, they can order some of those products online and have this one at home. Therefore, the trend, do it yourself or do it at home, was quite successful during the pandemic time. But once again, what is interesting, it still continue, and it will continue in the future. And here I did bring a couple of the examples. I'm sure that you have much more of them about the Vox Cinema, cooperating together with Deliveroo and Zomato, where you still can order some food from the cinema to your home, right? And have this experience with your loved one. The same about different options where you can order the meal ingredients with the recipe and cook at home and have the fun together with your family. And I'm sure that much more is around. And I think this is the question for many of you. How much consumers will spend? And I think, again, the perception about the price, something which I mentioned before, certainly bringing a lot of the challenges for all of us and for all of the consumers as well. And here, maybe around 8-9 months ago, when we had this webinar with the food and beverages, and we did speak a lot, it was some great momentum where we see that the promo spiral going a little bit of down. We see less and less promo happening in the market. And it was quite positive sign, quite great momentum. A lot of the manufacturers and retailers use this momentum where they're trying to a little bit elevate the benefits of their product, value of their product. build up the loyalty to their products, not just only talking about the promo offering and price. And you see that some of them have been very successful, and they would be very sustainable in the future. But overall, what we see in the market, it's unfortunately the situation going towards to the back to the promo. And what is interesting that the promo pressure coming to the level as it used to be in 2019 or even higher. And on the right side, I put efficacy of the promo. And unfortunately, it's going down. And I believe that, of course, all of us trying to go and drive the top line, but at the same time, I think we need to look at a little bit of a sustainable way of attracting the customers. Because in the end of the day, value as well as the low price, it's maybe just the good draw cards to attract the customers. Again, it's a good short-term tactic, but I'm not sure about the long one. That's why certainly we need to look at the promo as one of the leverage and somehow to find the right mix between the promoting our products as well as the building the loyalty and doing some campaign which is driving this loyalty. And here maybe I will come with a little bit of another paradox which will bring a little bit of thoughts on the stage related to the shoppers and what they're looking for when they go in for the promo. Either in offline, either in online, we have a chance right now in real time to see if the product has been promoted or not. And certainly you see that there are much more search happening of the promo in online. And I think some of you maybe experience the same coming to the store, to the offline store and starting to check the price online, how much it is, right? And of course it will continue. But what is interesting that the last visit which they did either on brick and mortar, either on online, we see that the spends much higher in online because of the promo, because of the opportunity to see different sort of campaign and maybe to buy the product. That's why I believe that, as I mentioned, we have to look at everything as the combination to find the right balance, the right mix. Otherwise, it would be very difficult in the long term to sustain the brand loyalty. And here, a couple of the examples. I don't have a lot of time, therefore I will focus only on the last one with regard to the Australia and Melbourne campaign, where anyone from outside of the Melbourne can order the ice cream using the Uber application, will get the discount and order the ice cream for their loved one who is living in Melbourne right now and in a lockdown stage. I think this is how you can, at the same time, incentivize, but also build up a good story and build up the good memories, which is literally touching your heart. I think there are a lot of the thoughts have been shared, and certainly we will have a great discussion in a couple of minutes during the panel. And maybe I would like to finish on one of the things. It doesn't matter if your customer constrained or insulated. Everyone is passing through the certain of the new norms and big challenges right now. But at the same time, we see more and more opportunities around. And I think this year and the year before, giving a chance to everyone to touch those opportunities, to embrace those challenges, and actually drive the customer in the future. Thank you very much, and it has been a pleasure to be here in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andre. I know you're out of time. It's really stressful, that red blinker when it starts going on and off. It's like that series. I don't know if you've seen it, the old one. What was it called? 24. Who's seen 24? It's an old series, yeah, I know. I'm old. I'm older than what I look. I have several announcements before we go on to our next session, so bear with me. The first and most important one is I'd like to point your attention to one of the main and really insightful sessions we'll be having today in the afternoon. It will be our concluding session. It's the last session of the day, and it's the session regarding the Innovation Lab. If you were here yesterday, and you saw the story, a very insightful story about Emirati students and how they were mentored by business leaders in the in the food industry. They were mentored to take their own ideas about creating a food product from scratch, from inception, from a simple idea all the way to actual development and sending it off to the market. This story, how it happened and what we can do to build on helping young talents in the UAE will be the focus of the session in the afternoon. So please do attend that. The second announcement is there will be certificates of attendance as well. So the more sessions you attend, you'll get your certificates at the end of the day. And in case you haven't done so and you haven't visited the wonderful displays of multicultural countries out in the expo, you will get your expo passes at the registration booth, which is right outside this room. I believe this might be the end of my announcements, so allow me to present to you our next speaker who will be taking on the next panel. He brings with him over 25 years of experience of progressive, cross-functional leadership experience with regional and multinational companies, including Unilever, Henkel, and SC Johnson. Please welcome President and CEO of Reach Middle East, Dr. Sami Karoua.
Thank you, Jesse. So may I ask, please, to the stage Saoud Abu Shawarib, the Managing Director of Dubai Industrial City. Andri, again, we just heard from you, Andri, the Managing Director of Nielsen IQ. Balki, the Managing Director of General Mills Global Emerging Markets, the Vice President and the Managing Director of General Mills. Tom Harvey, the General Manager Commercial of Spinneys and Waitrose. And last but definitely not least, Hassan Safi, the Chief Financial Officer of Al Ain Farms. So let's hope we'll have an exciting discussion, especially that the clock is ticking and we have multiple sectors to talk about, from an industrial to brand owners to the retailers and the readers in the market. So my first question to you, Saoud, would be, what are the real impact of COVID and the pandemic on manufacturers from an infrastructure perspective?
Okay, good morning. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Actually, there was an impact mainly on supply chain, and what I can proudly say that the success that everyone during the pandemic last year and continuing this year was mainly we've reached into a level that we have all shelves were filled because of the support of the manufacturer business partners, and in addition to the infrastructure advance that we have in Dubai and the UAE today. So road networks, airports, seaports mainly, where yesterday it was mentioned also Jabal Ali port being operational 24/7 really supported that we've made sure in the UAE we don't run out of products. And this infrastructure strength is continuing to add value to attract future manufacturers also to establish their facilities in Dubai and the UAE. So we believe that the backbone of each economy is the industrial sector, and in 2 consecutive major events around the world, global events such as the financial crisis in 2009 and COVID-19 last year, really proved that the industrial sector in the UAE is healthy, and what supported this health is the amazing infrastructure we have And we normally compete around the world from a UAE level perspective that we are top 3 on the world in terms of infrastructure.
Great. Thank you, Saud. Back to you, Andre. Andre, do you see any changes in retail composition post-COVID? We have seen a great presentation on this, and if you could please briefly tell us, how do you foresee it?
Yeah, and I think this is also just a question. Thank you for the question. I think it's a question which is asked every day, and I think you ask it by yourself. From our side, what we see, brick and mortar as the format, as the hyper and supermarket, is still one of the key format where the consumers spend the most of their budget, if they spend the money on FMCG, and they do. But at the same time, it was maybe like around 15, 20 years ago established, and in our countries, it's starting to get up a little bit of later, but again, we see a quite strong momentum. And again, I'm sure that Tom will share a couple of more ideas about that one, but I think convenience as the format is something which will get the traction in the future. But again, I believe that things will come on top. Last but not least, going to the e-commerce in particular, yes, I know it's a low base. I know it's a completely the new territory for majority of us, but I think this is where the opportunity can last, because we see that a lot of the smaller players, which maybe had no chance before to enter the panel, to enter the shelf in a big hyper and supermarket, right now they have an opportunity. And I believe that in UAE in particular, we have a lot of those purely e-commerce players, the new one which is coming to the market. With the great support also from the government, you see that they're growing quite fast. Therefore, I think this is what can come on top. If you ask me, if I wanted to build up the huge hypermarkets right now, do I need to do it? I think possibly not. Okay, this is about the channel spread, but certainly there are a lot of the opportunities and much more than it used to be before.
Thank you, Andre. Back to you, Balki. Balki, you lead some of the most famous brands at General Mills in the emerging markets. Have you seen any brand priority positioning or changing post-pandemic?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. And for all of us to be engaging in the future of food, which from the optimism and the enthusiasm that we see from participation in this room is quite bright. From a consumer behavior standpoint, Andre spoke a little while ago about some of the significant behavior changes. During the pandemic, what we saw was a lot of consumers were rediscovering behaviors that they may have forgotten over the years, or they had chosen to do other things. So one of the things we found was consumers, many younger consumers especially, discovered that there is a kitchen in the house. And we were spending a lot more time preparing meals. So Andre shared that in the form of data that grocery categories did really well. But as consumers started engaging in more time preparing food at home, the need for convenience, the need for great taste experiences has been amplified more than ever than what we've seen in the recent past. So as manufacturers, as branded players, leaders in the category, we strive to provide those convenient solutions so that consumers can have those experiences at home. And as they do that, they're looking for variety as part of their meal. And the branded players who are able to do that, and I'm proud to say some of our brands have done really well in doing that, those brands have done well, they've succeeded. Whereas snacking is an area where people are making more conscious choices today than maybe a few years ago or pre-pandemic. And that's an area where I see us as well as a lot of other manufacturers adapting to the change in behavior from consumers.
Thank you, Balki. Tom, very similar question from a retail perspective. You lead one of the leading chains in the UAE and Oman, Spinneys and Waitrose. Have you foreseen any consumer behavior changes during the pandemic and post-pandemic?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of changes that a lot of the speakers have already picked up on. So I think one of the important things to think about in relation to what happened in the COVID and what is going to happen now is to talk about share of stomach. So as a retailer, we certainly saw a huge increase in sales as soon as we went into the lockdown. You couldn't eat anywhere else. And clearly, as the country opened up, as the world opened up, that starts to change, and that changes where people are eating. We certainly saw to what Bauke was saying about the togetherness and a huge resurgence in home baking. We saw a huge drive to premium. People who were not able to go out to eat in restaurants still wanted to eat the best quality of food, and we've continued to see that sustain, and actually based on similar trends to what we saw post the financial crash 2008-2009, would expect that to continue for a couple more years. But the share of stomach is a really important thing to think about, and I think to what Bauke's saying about the convenience, the eating in the home and eating on the move, which is also obviously something that Spinneys would offer products through for people coming in for grab their lunch, is a very important area that we need to make sure we continue to focus on and understand what we're doing versus the convenience that is offered by the delivery aggregators, the HoReCa sector at large, and increasing the other parts of the online sector that are coming in providing food.
Wonderful. So Hassan, building on what Bauke and Tom mentioned, do you foresee any role for local manufacturers in playing in changing consumer behavior, especially post-pandemic?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sami. Actually, listening to my colleagues here in the panel and looking at the changing, the landscape of consumer changing, which the consumer demands have actually got impacted heavily by the pandemic. And consumers are currently looking for healthy, convenient, probably value for money. And if we try to link all of that with the food security initiatives, trying to reduce the reliance on import, the local manufacturers have a great responsibility to adapt themselves to fulfill these demands. And that's actually put two major questions on the table for us. Do we have to reconsider our investment growth strategy? And is our operating model still suitable to fulfill these demands? If I go back, of course, if I want to answer all these questions, it would take a full session by itself. But I just want to highlight a few points related to each question. What I mean by the reconsider our investment growth strategy, we need to ask ourselves as a local manufacturers, do we have to invest in agri-tech investments? Do we go for vertical farming, aquaponic, hydroponic, or do we simply invest in a downstream supply chain, i.e. we become a consumer of the output of these investments? Despite which direction we're going to take, Sami, it's imperative that retailers, regulators, and local manufacturers work together to fulfill this demand, because ultimately which direction is going to take is going to impact the consumption of what is the consumer is going to consume from the shelf. I believe the consumer demands have changed, and that has changed a lot the market dynamics. We have, I believe that food aggregators is going to try to expand their offerings, and they're going to pursue the inorganic path of growth. And what I mean by that, we have seen some of the consolidation happening on the market, and there will be a future consolidation most likely will happen in the coming future. If I jump really quickly in the operating model part, there is two ways of doing it. Is the local manufacturers is going to do it by themselves? Are we going to recruit a chef to prepare a convenient food for me? Am I going to replace my big vans with motorbikes to deliver? Or simply I'm going to work with the retailers to make sure that the available convenient product is available in every online platform? These are all questions that we need to answer, and this is what we...
Thank you, Hassan. Back to you, Saud, leading Dubai Industrial City. What are the key factors determining the investment, the planned investment really post-COVID scenario, from your perspective?
Okay, and what we've noticed during last year and this year, the mindset of the manufacturers has changed. So previously the focus was mainly top line, now it became bottom line also, where manufacturers are willing to change the way they operate to be more efficient, reduce their production waste, by investing in highly automated operation lines and renewable energy. We have a lot of amazing examples that were triggered from 2019 till today, where we generate at Dubai Industrial City more than 25 megawatt of renewable energy from our business partners being operating in Dubai Industrial City. And what we are seeing today, it really added value to them in different aspects. First, reducing their operating cost, being a green, implementing green economy, circular economy in their operations, which really opened the door to multinational clients of them, approaching them because of ticking those boxes of sustainability, zero waste, and taking care of their people. So we've noticed this really opened the door for our manufacturers to go abroad, to supply to multinational companies in the States, Canada, and Europe. So this really added value for our manufacturers to not only focus on the UAE market and the region, also to go global. Made in UAE, or the campaign that Moyat has started this year, Make It in the Emirates, what I've seen as a feedback from our business partners, that the Made in UAE brand as a product has very high standard, which made their products enter to those markets, to the advanced markets, I'm talking Europe and the States, with very less hassle in terms of documentation. So today we're proudly saying, yes, we import a lot of food products, 90%, but we also export food items globally. So we need to wear the hat of being an exporting country rather than importing. Yes, we have some raw materials that are not available locally that we need to source. And going back to the previous point that we've mentioned about infrastructure, it really bridged the gap of having those raw materials reaching on time, which led in higher quality of production and products that reached globally.
Thank you, Saud. Back to you, Andre. So how post-pandemic you advise marketeers to act and react in terms of pricing and promotions to their products post-pandemic? Any advice? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, in the beginning of this year and the end of the last year, we've seen a quite good dynamic, especially on promo, right? It was less promo than it used to be before. And one of the interesting facts which I would like to share with you, during the second quarter of the last year, when we see that a lot of promotions have been reduced, for some of the products which have been highly promoted before, they lost a lot of the sales. And the reason for that because the size of the promotion was so high that literally shoppers, they did not realize that it was the promo. They thought that it was a regular price.
A permanent one.
Therefore, somehow, they perceived, when we took out the promo, they perceived that you just increased the price. And they say, how it's possible during this tough time you increasing the price, which you didn't do. You just stopped the promo.
Yeah.
I will tell you the categories: confectionery, coffee. It's one of the most suffered because of this promo spiral. And I think you see this boomerang effect. Sometimes he's just coming back and will hit us very hard. Therefore, I think when you look at the promo, it's just not only the short term, but also the long term. What is exactly you would like to achieve? Because you see, and we discussed today with the Tom about some of the retailer with the convenience format and with the very low everyday price, bringing a lot of the products from the Eastern Europe. I mean, to beat those prices, it would be mission impossible. But do you really need to beat the price, or you maybe need to think about some other way how to attract the customers and how to keep the customers? Because again, we discussed this example of the hard discounters in Europe, like Lidl or Aldi, who just always position themselves as the discounter, everyday low price. But one day they decided to work on the a little bit of different way of attracting the customer, with building up the bakeries inside of the store, bringing a lot of the fresh food inside of the store, building up this experience, which was literally always the area of the traditional retail. And what has happened? They still having this everyday low price, and they bring in this nice experience.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think this is where we need to just look at ourselves first and look at our strategy and set up it based on what we wanted to achieve, rather than just trying to, as you also mentioned, every day driving the top line grow, and don't think like how it will be in the future, in a couple of years from now.
Great. Thank you, Andrei. Back to you, Balki. Leading all these brands, was there any change in focus on these brands post-pandemic in light of consumer change behaviors?
Yeah. First of all, I think we've all learned that Andrei does not like low prices. He's
correct.
made it very clear.
Absolutely.
Jokes apart, I think what I'll share with you is probably something you will relate to if you're a brand owner, or as all of us are shoppers, and this is something you'll relate to as a shopper that interacts with brands as well. I think over the pandemic, brands that have acted are the brands that have been doing well. What do I mean by brands that act? A, C, and T. The A stands for brands that are agile. The C stands for brands that are connected, and the T stands for brands that are trusted. Yeah. Agility in the form of innovation, agility in the form of meeting that pandemic impacted, changed consumer behavior and the needs of that consumer. So brands that have been able to showcase that level of agility, they have done really well and will continue to do well. Those are the brands that have acquired a lot of new consumers and are doing a good job of retaining them. I would say, a brand in my portfolio, like Haagen-Dazs ice cream, we see consumers seeking variety. And so when you buy a tub of Haagen-Dazs, some are seeking 2 flavors, not just one, to be able to actually provide that variety. That taste experience has been a form of agility. Connected, the digital consumer, be it for shopping or for communicating with the brand. The brands that are connected through whatever emerging channels that are relevant for the consumer, be it a TikTok or a Snap or YouTube in Saudi Arabia, Instagram in the UAE, to be able to connect with the consumer in a medium that's actually relatable to that consumer is extremely important. Yeah. Brands that do well, connecting that way, the C of that act is so important. And the T part, everybody knows this, trust. When Saud speaks about made in the UAE, that's a brand of trust, right? I'm proud that over 2/3 of what we sell in the GCC is actually made in the UAE. So elements of trust, be it local, be it brands and experiences that you know that have been around for years, products that you had good experiences with, that element of trust is extremely important for consumers today. So when you get that combination of agility, connected, and trusted together, that's making a big difference.
Great, thanks, Balki. So again, building on what Andre and Balki said, Tom, from a retail perspective, did you see any, did you plan any change in product positioning within the Spinneys Waitrose world?
We didn't so much change product positioning as really just make sure that we were following exactly what the customer needs were and how we saw that shifting. There was certainly a significant drive to fresh and to grocery items at the same time. The things that people were dropping off were all of the unimportant items. The things that they suddenly realized they didn't need. It was to do with the way that people had changed their behavior, their lives. Always talk about some of the interesting stats of suddenly the sales of deodorant dropped through the floor. I'm very pleased that that didn't happen to most of the people in the Spinneys office, and we were still all fresh every day. What we've seen and what we really continue to see is exactly what Balki said about this drive to trust. So organic has been massive, and we've continued to drive on that. We've seen from Spinneys' perspective the customer's desire for innovation, the customer's desire for products that are healthy, that they can trust, continue to be critically important. And I think the repertoire of what people are buying has changed. Things like multivitamin supplements continue to be at a very high level of sale. One of the biggest things we saw immediately was an enormous spike in oranges. People just want vitamin C. They want it to be putting goodness into their body. And so I think, again, from a Spinneys and a Waitrose perspective, with the level of fresh food that we offer, that has been something that people have recognized, they've changed their behavior, and they will see, for some of them, a permanent shift in the repertoire of products that they're buying.
And you foresee this continuing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that is what is now driving innovation for us. So, whilst what Andre was talking about, a lot of promotions going on in the market, not with us. We've been actively trying to cut those down even less. And we sit very proudly at less than double digits on our promotional participation. It's a very dangerous game. We're focused on innovation and making sure that we've got the new products that are different to what everybody else has done, so that we're actually driving value into the chain.
Excellent, thanks, Tom. Hassan, from a local manufacturing perspective, and especially now after pandemic, was there any strategic shift in terms of looking at different types of investment, be it in agricultural technology, be it in local growing?
Well, yeah. I'll be representing Al Ain Farms. Al Ain Farms is probably the oldest dairy company in the UAE, and today we are one of the largest, biggest integrated business operating from farm to shelf. Of course, we have asked ourselves a number of questions. How do we actually fulfill the requirement of these consumer demands and the food security issues? I'll just give an example. Today we import a lot of major quantity of feed for our cows. Yep. If we go, for example, for vertical farmings and we plant these feeds in a controlled environment and we ensure that these feeds are of high nutrition, then probably we will make sure that the bottle of milk that is on the shelf has a much higher nutritional value than what it has today. Of course, have we actually taken a step to fulfill these demands? Yes, we've been involved in a number of strategic discussions, especially with the Ministry of Food Security, and we are working with them hand in hand. We are actually representing the sector, the dairy and poultry, to revise the regulations first and to to see what kind of support that will enable us as a local manufacturers to fulfill these demands.
Thank you, Hassan. So the last question, Saud, to you. Leading the Dubai Industrial City, is there any additional incentives that you can take us through that Dubai Industrial City, along with the government, are working on to incentivize companies to be retained and sustained and grow within the UAE from a manufacturing perspective?
Sure. Actually, our incentive is mainly built on the plan of the government. So the sectors that we are focusing today on is supporting food and beverage because it's directly related to food security. Pharma is a new sector that we're focusing on. We've noticed that during the pandemic and after the pandemic, there was huge requirements from leading medical and pharmaceutical industries to establish in the Dubai Industrial City. We've signed more than 1 million square feet of land into pharmaceutical. So in terms of incentives, we support the industrial manufacturers by having a one-stop shop facility that supports them from establishing their licenses up to the stage of operating their facility. So we work closely with them in reviewing their designs, even to a level that we give them advice on how they can operate. And we support them during the construction stage with a good relief in their operational cost.
You mentioned to me something about the financing.
Yes, last month we've signed with Emirates Development Bank an MOU where, as everyone is aware, as part of Operation 300 billion, the government also introduced a funding budget of 30 billion dirhams to support the industrial sector. So our MOU with EDB is mainly to support the priority industrial sectors, which FMB is the leading sector in the priority list, by supporting funding their construction, upgrading their operations by automating their process lines, funding for renewable energy, and to become greener, which one of our priority is to decarbonize the industrial sector. And finally, supporting and funding working capital and inventory for their operations. So I believe adding those elements will give an advantage to attract and support the industrial sector here in the UAE.
Thank you, Saud. Andre, we have seen an increase in health and wellness products during the pandemic. Do you foresee this continuing post-pandemic? And what do you see the trend being?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we already just discussed it with my team and also with our clients. We see that those plant-based, organic type of the products, they are on a sort of strong attention right now from the customers. And I think what we maybe need to look at in a little bit of helping our customers to understand what is exactly, like inside of the bag. Sometimes I think we put a lot of the, like names, a lot of different elements, ingredients, which is the inside of the juice, inside of the certain of different health and well-being products. I think we need to just try to figure out what is the most important for them.
For the
because
consumer.
Somehow, I don't know, like if you had this experience going to some hypermarkets here and have a lot of the huge variety of those organic health well-being type of the products, but you get lost in a second.
Yeah.
You don't know what is exactly, how this product can help you to sort of meet your needs. And I think this is where we need to a little bit of work on, help, and after we will see the sort of further development. But this trend is not something which is new, happening because of the pandemic. I think pandemic only accelerate this trend, and this trend is starting to be sort of in a very high level of the growth rates. But even 3-4 years in the past, I did present in some conference. It was already like in a good focus for many customers. And I think it will continue. The trend will continue the drive, will continue the growth, but just we need a little bit of help, because if we put all of the ingredients or chemical elements, which is the part of the banana, I'm not sure that you will buy it. Okay?
Yeah.
Even though it's natural.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think we need to be more targeted.
Thank you, Andriy. Bulky, similar question. In light of changing consumer behavior, looking for healthier, more organic, is there any shift in the brands or in the R&D specifically within General Mills world to focus more on these types of products?
No, that's a good question. You know, and picking up from where Andrea left off, nutritious food is good for you only if you put it in your mouth. You know, and we all know, you know, as parents, we try to give our kids really healthy food, but then, you know, you make it as healthy as you can, but if it's still on the plate and if it doesn't get consumed, it's not good enough for you. I think for innovation today, it is important to understand real consumer needs, where there is a consumer problem, and trying to solve that, right? And that's the consumer first way of approaching innovation. And finding those specific needs and not just delivering on that need, but doing it in a tasty way so that it gets consumed, it gets picked up. So it is nutrition plus taste is where we sit, and where we sit very well, because we're able to deliver on that consumer first and that consumer need very well. I'll give you a simple example, a product like Nature Valley granola bars. You know, granola bars are very popular in various parts of the world. You know, it's a mid-afternoon snack or a, you know, breakfast pick-me-up when you don't have time. And there's a big need for protein. You know, people are looking for protein. So combining those two in a way that makes it really appealing. Most protein bars were more targeted towards people who were doing high-intensity workouts. But, you know, if you're like me, you know, a mid-afternoon pick-me-up can also be healthy for you, and that's a sweet spot that a granola bar can hit very well when it can deliver a meaningful amount of protein for you there. So those are the kinds of innovations that we pursue, which is delivering on a taste and a nutrition need of that consumer in a meaningful way.
Great, thanks, Bulky. Tom, from a retailer perspective, is there any product ranging priority differentiation after the pandemic? Do you foresee it changing much?
I think with the convenience we talked about, and I think Bulky's already talked a lot about the health side, one of the things that we have almost dropped off the agenda for about 18 months and is rapidly coming back is plastic. And it's, I think, the other very important thing that customers are rapidly reassessing their priorities and reminding themselves of where their minds were in early 2019 is there is too much packaging on products, and they want to see that improved. They want to have solutions. The entire supply chain is showing how we're doing things in a better way, making it convenient. So I know His Excellency was talking about the regulatory support needed. That goes right the way through actually to how we collect and recycle products. But packaging is an absolutely massive element of the new consumer's concern.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Tom. Hassan, last but definitely not the least. From a local manufacturing perspective, are you doing anything towards this new consumer trend?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Are you
hear
doing anything or any new product developments in terms of R&D or in line of the future needs of the consumers?
Of course, yeah. Currently, one of our divisions, Sami, is the camel, and this is a UAE local production. We produce fresh camel and fresh camel milk powder, and of course, camel milk powder is a very high nutrition product, very healthy. Still, it requires a lot of investment behind it in terms of awareness, that people would understand the nutritional value behind it. The good part, which we are proud of, is that the demand for such a product is is growing, especially in high consumption markets like China. We've heard this morning in the roundtable discussions that even the government is working on developing these bilateral agreements with other countries, and I think we are, as Al Ain Farm, we're involved in one of them, and very soon, inshallah, we will be able to export our products to very high consumption markets like China, and if this happens, hopefully we will have to, I won't say double or triple, I will have 10 times the capacity that we have today.
Excellent. Thanks, Hassan. So just to wrap up, a last piece of advice from each of our audiences. From each of our panelists to our audiences, please. So I'll start with you, Saud.
Okay, as an advice, we need to be more efficient. Less generation of waste should be a priority, and to focus on renewable energy. I think this is the trend.
These are the main
way forward, yes.
3 points that you recommend. Andrew, from your perspective.
Yeah, from my side, it's just quite simple. Embrace those challenges and convert them to opportunities, because certainly, again, as I mentioned, I think we have never seen such of the size of the opportunity as today for anyone. I'm not saying that maybe like in the past it was just completely no opportunities, but now in the current days, across the board, nobody knows what is exactly the new norms and how you can drive the market or what you can do and so on, because nobody experienced such of the environment in the past just exactly like that. Therefore, I think there is no mistake. It's just only certain of the success and the opportunities, maybe through the hard challenging, but still the success is going to be there.
Thanks, Andrew. Balki.
I'll keep it simple. I'll say continue to remain agile, stay connected with your consumers, and keep building the trust that your brands deserve.
Thanks. Tom?
One word, innovate.
Innovation. Thank you. Hassan?
Actually, I would say we work together. Local manufacturers, retailers, and regulators have to work together in order to fulfill these consumer demands.
Great. Thank you so much. It has been a great session, hopefully, and I hope the audiences really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saud. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thanks, Tom. Thanks. Let's.
Thank you so much. You can they please have their photo? Right. In the meantime, I know it's almost time for your coffee break, so I wanted to inspire you before you go on for that lovely, much-needed cup of coffee. Remember earlier on, I spoke to you about the innovation program. It is the program that the food and beverage, I think my hair is scratching on the mic, so I fixed that. It is the program that the food and beverage group is putting in place, is implementing to support students' involvement in this sector. Are there any students that I can see in the room? I see some of you. Oh, there you are. Hello, you're all the way in the back. We want to put you forward. We want to put your achievements forward, which is why we're going to show this short video about this wonderful, very inspiring journey. You'll see what I mean when you watch it, and you will want to consume that product like I did, about a young Emirati student who was involved in that innovation program, got help from business manufacturers in that program, and got mentored all the way from developing her idea, her mixing her culture, her memories with her family, the tastes that she used to have with her grandmother, and developing it into a market product. Let's take a look at this wonderfully inspiring story, and then we will go on for our break.
New product development and innovation are critical for food businesses to stay relevant in this changing economic scenario. Building capacity within the sector
sector in terms of people, resources, and knowledge, along with the ability to try out new things, is critical to keep the sector resilient. The participation of UAE nationals in the food sector and driving locally grown innovation is important in achieving this. It is with this objective that FNB Innovation Lab was initiated by the FNB Group, Khalifa Fund, and the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce.
هذه النكهة زين تذكرني بماما. ماما من أول كانوا يسوونه سيرفيس، هذا نحن نسميه هاون. زين فدائما يعني دائما تعملنا بالطبخ، تحط لنا نعمل شو يسمونه نطبخ بهذه. إذا نسوي مثلا مكبوس، نسوي برياني، نسوي صالونة، هاي النكهة. وبس شكرا جزيلا. شكرا. يلا شكرا. انت الحين تقولي عن النكهة. شكرا على الجميع، شكرا على هالجروب، شكرا حضورنا هنا، سعدنا برؤيتكم. شكرا.
She said it's almost the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My dream came true, Sarah. My dream really came true.
Read, is it your story about your family?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hunter Ford. You really helped me to brought the memory and my childhood with my grandmother. She's also, inshallah, she's with us now, and hopefully she can hear us and see the accomplishment that I did. Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed that story. Food is not just consumables, it's also a lot to do with the memories that we create with our loved ones. This is why I'd love for you to stay around for the last session. Right here, in the afternoon, we will meet some of these students. I will get the chance to speak to them about the help they got to develop some of their products and some additional products that were also developed, including a pasta vending machine, all local ideas that easily can go into the market. So do stick around for that in the afternoon. With that, I will let you go for your short break, about 10 to 15 minutes. Should I say 10? If I say 15, you will take 20. So I'll say 10 and see you in a bit.
Great products come from all corners of the world. We go out of our way to find the best materials, flavors, and designs. But as much as we love to travel, it's not easy at the best of times. And as circumstances change, we need to adapt. So instead of traveling the world, why not meet halfway? Dubai Global Connect is a wholesale market that brings together buyers and sellers with great goods from all over the world, all year round in one central location for safe and easy trade. Dubai Global Connect, where the world comes to trade.